Hello everyone, this is Red Robot and I am happy to be here talking to you today about just how nerfed was the Soda Popper and the Criticola. Alright, let's start with the stats. Keep things simple for the beginning. Starting with the Soda Popper. Now this is the heavier of the two nerfs. They've removed the whole build height by running around thing. I was never a big fan of that mechanic, mostly just because it meant that I had to keep running around constantly, even when we were just sitting there waiting for the attackers to come. And also just because, like, it's dumb to reward Scout just for running. I mean, you're going to run in every game. It's not really an interesting mechanic. Sure, you can build it up a little bit faster by, say, running with the Criticola out, because it increases your speed. A nifty combination there. But the way they've done it is a way that's been suggested by a lot of people, and that's just build the height by dealing damage. Now, you do have to do a sizable amount of damage to fill it up, and I've seen some posts by some people, you know, rip Soda Popper, it's useless now. Okay. Soda Popper is so good, just in its base form, that, like, almost, if it was just a little bit better, almost, it'd be fine without the bonus stat, without the hype. It's that good. It's just a really solid kind of a side grade design, and it's that added bonus of the special effect that you build up the hype for that makes the weapon just great. But I think this new change has made it pretty balanced. So you got to go in there, do damage. You can't just run from spawn to the point to fight and instantly have, what, 6 air jumps. That's just ridiculous, especially when you consider just like how much damage you can avoid with one air jump and the amount of directions you can change mid-air and all that. It's just nuts. So I really like this change. Now onto the Criticola. Okay, the Criticola nerf was one that was much more of a kind of slap on the wrist, added a marked for death debuff for only 2 seconds after the buff effect expires. Now, this nerf, I don't think this is actually enough. Sure, being marked for death for 2 seconds is terrible, but as we all know, the additional speed you get from the Criticola, the additional damage, you can literally one-shot other scouts in a 1v1, which is just nuts. The weapon is still great, so these stats, not quite enough, but I'm glad we're moving in a direction towards getting the Criticola, you know, in a more balanced state, and without, you know, jumping way too far ahead and making it unusable. Although, I think even still with the original Criticola stats of taking full mini-crits, it's still got its place. It's supposed to be that high-risk, high-reward, and the 10% damage vulnerability during, followed by the mini-crits for 2 seconds after it ends, I don't know if that really cuts it. Sure, you have to duck out of combat, but in the grand scheme of things, usually if you're going in there, guns blazing with mini-crits from your Criticola and the additional speed, all the enemies will probably be dead by the time it wears off. Now here's my time to feel pretty smug and say that I called it in my video, the best loadout for competitive matchmaking, where I highlight the strength of the Soda Popper and the Criticola. I'm glad that Valve took a look at both these weapons and agreed and said, yep, let's make some changes. So, of course, just like before with the Criticola, any steps towards making them more balanced is greatly appreciated. As I mentioned before, the old synergy between the Soda Popper and the Criticola was that the Criticola would make you move faster, so you'd build up the hype for the jumps faster, right? And now it works together again. You do more damage, so you build up hype for your jumps again. So it's actually quite neat the way that kind of worked out in the end. It's kind of weird how the Soda Popper still has the Criticola cans on it, on its model. You'd think that they'd invent some sort of third type of can, like some sort of fizzy, like, super jump can that put on the Soda Popper, you know, to make it kind of thematically tie together a little bit better, but it doesn't seem to bother anyone else other than me, so I'll just leave it at that. One aspect of the weapon that this kind of nerfs is that you could actually use the Criticola to get to the middle fight or the capture point a lot faster than a regular scout. The speed boost actually overcomes the drink time, especially since you can drink during freeze time. And that means that when you get to the point, you will be marked for death for 2 seconds. Now, I don't know, you know, the specifics of the timings on certain maps, but it definitely means that there is a risk that you turn up to the fight, sure, faster, but you're marked for death for a few seconds. You could catch a stray sticky or a stray scattergun long range and be at a disadvantage for the fight. So I like that effect. It does remind me of how they handled the bonk. Now, in the past, the bonk had a slowdown effect at the end of your invulnerability. That's why Scout makes that kind of panting sound at the end of the bonk, if you've ever heard it. It's for those old stats that were removed. So it's kind of like that, and I kind of like that callback to the original bonk stats. But at the same time, this is a good change. Let's make it a little bit more severe. If they really don't want to make the damage vulnerability any higher, 10% is pathetic, then at least make the mark for death period longer. 2 seconds doesn't feel long enough to me. Another pretty cool synergy between these two weapons that I realized when playing around with it is that when your mini crits end at the critical, you get marked for death, you can use the extra jumps from the soda popper to actually avoid jet damage during that time, to kind of overcome that downside. So I really like the kind of ways these two weapons play off one another. According to some people I've played against, they're the most like infuriating weapons in the world, and I can totally agree. Being one shot, 140 damage in a scout v scout fight is very silly, but at least there's been an attempt to pull the criticola back in line, and the soda pop has definitely been tamed. I think the weapon, I don't think anyone will really get frustrated with it anymore. You have to do a large amount of damage to earn you have to earn your jumps, and that's what I really like about it. It's not just given to you on a platter for just choosing to, you know, press W for a while. In conclusion, these were some really good rebalances, pretty much required with the launch of comp matchmaking. Now, Scout still, I think, in my opinion, was buffed overall in the update with the addition of the quick fix and the medigun following Scout at increased speed. But, you know, it's an attempt. There was an attempt. We can give Valve that. And hopefully they continue to look at these weapons and iterate on these changes, and I'm sure eventually we'll get to a place where some people are happy with the critical rather than no one. Well, that's all I got for you right now. Had a bunch of fun playing with these weapons, and I didn't feel quite as bad this time that I did the last times. Next up, we'll be covering one of the most powerful weapons in the game, that is the monster known as the Sun on a Stick. See you then.